Hello and good evening to all of you. You probably have never seen me much dressed up, but it just happened that I just came back from a meeting in Richmond, and arriving here on the farm, I was ready for you. And I'd like to talk about something very interesting to me and very important to me, which is the need for my occupation to be very objective in my judgment of different sorts. But I think pretty much all of us in life need to be more objective about our opinion than just use our subjectivity sometime, maybe sometime in the wrong way. But I like to come to something that happened recently where I saw that objectivity of some people was missing. It happened last week in New York. I was at a very important wine tasting Thursday and Friday. It was myself and the son of our founder and our new president of the company, Francesco Zonin. So for 2 days in the afternoon, we had 4 wine tasting sessions. And on a wine session, in particular on Friday, I was pouring wine, 2 wines from Barboursville. One was Nebbiolo and one was Cabernet Franc. Let me tell you a bit more about the tasting before I go further. The tasting itself was comprised of about 130 producers from every continent. And it was organized by James Suckling from jamessuckling.com. And so we were among the really very best of wineries worldwide. The audience was all from people that either were in the trade, but quite a lot of consumers that pay a pretty good amount of money to come taste the wine. So I wouldn't say they were all wine experts, but definitely were people that are used to drink wine probably daily and probably discerning into what bottle to choose in the store and what new bottle to explore. So the interesting part also was that since I was serving the Nebbiolo, the organizer chose to put us very close in proximity, actually, to 3 producers of Barolo. Barolo, if you don't know, but I think most of you do, it is, along with a couple other wines in Italy, considered among the best reds with the best expression of the whole country of Italy. And so 3 producers of Barolos, which actually it's made 100% with Nebbiolo, and then they have our Nebbiolo. The organizer chose to do that to keep actually the Barolos made from Nebbiolo together with the next wine made from the same grape but from a different continent. It was purely done not to confuse people. Actually, it was purely done to keep consistency between the lineup of the wine. If you think they're made from the same grape, it makes sense. And so throughout the tasting, I actually poured the wine to some people. They were just coming from tasting those 3 Italian Barolos. And the sign itself that was actually reporting the information on the wine was merely saying Barboursville Vineyards, and very tiny was disclosing Nebbiolo, Virginia, and the point that was scored from the organizer. Some people actually, as they approached the table, they look at the sign. They didn't pay much attention, and they went directly to asking for a sip. And as I poured a sip of the Nebbiolo, they swirled it, they smelled it, they tasted it, and the comments were actually great comments. Say, "Oh, this is very good. It's refreshing. It's so fragrant. I like the freshness, the acidity, the tannins. It's really nice." And only at that point I would mention to them, is this the first time you have a wine from Virginia? And people were very surprised, and they say, oh my gosh, is this from Virginia? I say, yes. It's produced in Virginia from in a farm that was established in 1976 by an Italian family. I'm from Piemonte. It's the grape where I grew up. It's the first grape I grew actually when I was 14-year-old. Actually not grew, but fermented and made into wine with the aid of my father, which was a winemaker. And so the conversation went on. Although I had other people that being more inquisitive about knowing exactly what was the wine from, who was the producer, they kept reading the fine lines till when they realized it was from Virginia. And so the question was, no, it wasn't even a question, it was like, Virginia? You assume there's a question mark there, right? An exclamation and question mark. And they say, yes, it's from Virginia. I would tell them the story behind it, the reason why I planted it, and the reason why we still grow it. But then the whole approach, all the comments, the style, a type of comment completely changed. And it was like this. You know, you swirl the wine, you look it up, you smell it. By the way, the color, it's very much in line with the variety, the aroma, the taste. But still, people will focus on it. And I could tell they really like it. But versus saying, I really like it, like the other people commented, the commentary was such as, oh, it's very interesting. And I let it go, but with one person I asked, well, can you tell me why it's interesting? Because to me, interesting is not enough. I really need to hear from you if you like it or not. And they say, no, I really like it, but I find it different than the other wines from Italy. And my argument was very simple. I say, well, I find mine different than the other wine from Italy. So I'm not being, I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just saying that tasting wine, as I say, sometime in life we have to use the same methodology. We should be very careful not to be influenced by perhaps what we hear about a person or what we hear about a certain association or something, unless we document ourselves very well. But overall, we should even more avoid taking any position or preconceived notions in ourselves, perhaps because one person is dressed one way or whatever other feature of that person are. And that's important. And I like to bring it to how we blend our octagon, for example. I know that if I write down 3 blends that I think are potentially a good blend, I know that if I produce 3 and my colleague Fernando Franco and Daniele Tessaro make 3 other ones, there is a chance that if I know which one is mine, I tend to like it more, or at least my brain, it's shifting more to that preference. And that's why we do taste blind. That's why I don't want to have any external influences on the decision that truly has to be objective. Only at that point I can say I made the best wine I could from that vintage. And so for all of you, when you taste wines, don't worry where it comes from, especially if it's a new wine that you have never tasted. Don't focus on the origin. Don't focus at first, please, too much on the story behind the wine. Focus on the quality of the wine itself. Very rarely when people start tasting wine, I start filling a lot of information into their brain. Some people do that because the way they prepare the person to a great expectation, and then the wine perhaps is not a great wine, but you're so much already excited about it that your wine will taste better. So I tend to keep my lips fairly tight when I pour wine to people. I let them taste it, and then I engage with them. I find it a bit more respectful of letting the customer, the drinker, make their own assessment, have their own question, and then I basically open up and I tell them all I know about the wine. So try to do that, and you really will also take more ownership on why you choose that wine versus somebody told you, oh, you have to like it because of this and this. But anyway, I'm not saying it's the way to do it. It's just one way I like to see it done. I think it is better. There's also one thing I like to talk about today. It's about the Queen Jubilee in the UK, an amazing lady with such an incredible amount of energy. And I didn't have a chance to meet her ever or see her first person. Although in 2007, I received a call, early in 2007, I received a call from the office of the then Governor Tim Kaine, and I was asked to consider supporting a big celebration at the governor's mansion with some of our wines, and the reception was with the Queen Elizabeth. And at the reception, our Octagon 2004 our Passito was served, as well as our Viognier. So the wine was served at the reception. A great chef was in charge of the food, and he's our dear friend Patrick O'Connell from the Italy of Washington. And it is just about a year earlier that I started engaging with a photographer and journalist, a photojournalist, Charles Larson, about publishing a book on Barboursville vineyards. And so actually the picture that is here was taken by Charles Larson, which was allowed as a press person on the ground of just outside the mansion in Richmond. And so it is published on our book. I thought it was fitting, given the recent celebration, to bring up this piece of information that probably a lot of you are aware about. But you don't get to celebrate a platinum service as a queen, I think. It's very unusual and is a great event. So I drink a little sip to Long Hail to the Queen. And for those of you that perhaps like to celebrate with a wine that was served at the reception, it was Octagon 2004. We still have a limited amount of bottles that are available, and it couldn't be probably a better opportunity perhaps to come here on the estate and share a bottle with some friends, or go at Palladio restaurant for dinner, and Alessandro Medici can just decant it for you a bit before you will enjoy it. Actually, the wine does show better characters when you decant it about a half hour to 45 minutes before drinking. So other things going on the farm, to give you an update, is that the season is progressing beautifully. Some of the Chardonnay was blooming not but few weeks ago is getting to a size a little bit bigger than a grain of black pepper, let's say a caper, maybe. So things are pushing. The vines are growing very vigorously. You see all these new growths waving up at the top. We're going to show them to you in a couple of weeks with a nice haircut. Everything coming out of this wire are going to be cut off. We are on target for a great growing season, and we're not declaring any victory by any means, but so far it's almost a perfect condition for us, and we really hope to produce again the best wine we can for you, and I'll see you next week.